Okay, enough of me yapping for now. Our first writer, Mike O'Mary, is the author of Wise Men and Other Stories and The Note. His essays have been featured in the Chicago Tribune, the Denver Post, and the Baltimore Sun. Mike is also founder of Dream of Things, an independent book publisher focused on memoir and essay collections. Mike is a graduate of Knox College, the University of Montana Creative Writing Program, and the Second City Comedy Writing Program. Mike, come on up, please.
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Ann, for having me here, and thank you, everybody, for turning out. Happy holidays. I've got two short, kind of holiday-related essays that I'd like to share, so I'm going to get right to it. The first one is called The Top 10. At the end of each year, everybody scrambles to come up with the top 10. The top 10 songs, the top 10 movies. On New Year's Eve, 1999, somebody even came up with a list of the top 10 historical events of the 20th century. It's pretty heady stuff. I would like to propose a more modest list, a personal top 10. What would you list among your own top 10 accomplishments last year? What were the 10 nicest things that happened to you? What were the 10 strangest things? What were your 10 best days? The first time I tried to come up with a personal top 10 list, I had trouble thinking up 10 of anything. It seemed not much had happened in my life. And of course, despite the fact that not much had happened, it also seemed like I had been busier than heck. I was tempted at that point to make a to-do list, but we always end up carrying those around like so much excess baggage. So instead, I just made a list of 10 things that were going on in my life at the time, sort of a personal balance sheet to describe where I was and what I was doing. Back then, I was trying to finish work on a graduate degree. I had some debts to pay off. I wasn't getting along very well with my boss. I wasn't getting along very well with my wife. I had a number of household projects I had been putting off. So I wrote it all down, then I folded up the list and tucked it in my wallet. When I pulled out the list a year later, I was amazed at how much things had changed. Some of my problems were gone. Some new problems had taken their place. But overall, I had accomplished much more than I would have imagined. Since then, I have produced a balance sheet and list of accomplishments every year. Some of the things that made my list this year: I did more writing than last year. I also argued less with my wife. I'm pretty sure the two are related. I paid off some debts, saved some money, started one new friendship, and renewed an old one. I even started piano lessons again, something I had started and stopped years ago. Among my 10 best days, I'd count any of the dozen or so that I took my daughter to the playground so she could play, after which we sat and watched the evening sky turn orange, red, pink, and purple. In the strange category, I was asked by a group of local citizens who are campaigning against substance abuse to join their group. That's strange because when I was younger, I probably could have been their poster boy. So I had ambiguous feelings about joining this group, but in the end I realized they were primarily against abuse as opposed to substance, so I joined their cause. The result of all this is that I highly recommend taking a look at where you've been and what's going on around you right now. And if you need a confidence builder, make a done list instead of a to-do list. List 10 things that you've done this past year and then check them off. You'll find that you're not drifting aimlessly through life. Whether it was conscious or not, you've set a course for yourself. The things that are important to you will become obvious because they will crop up again and again on your list of accomplishments. Or else you'll notice that after listing your accomplishments, you still have an empty feeling. One particular thing isn't on the list. In either case, you'll learn what's important to you, and you can determine whether you are on course, slightly off course, or in need of a refresher course in cartography. In our trek through life, we tend to revisit the same places. Sometimes the best way to figure out where you're going is to look at where you've already been. So one more essay. This one is called Unwrapping Our Gifts. When we open our presents at Christmas, I am in charge of gathering up the wrapping paper. I don't know exactly when or why I became my family's designated cleaner-upper, but over the years, as I've gotten to know myself a little bit better, I understand that this was no accident. Getting rid of the wrapping paper is part of who I am. I learned from my mother how to wrap gifts. She wrapped things in plain white tissue with a simple ribbon and handmade bow. After all the presents had been opened, she gathered up the tissue paper, the ribbons and bows, and saved them to be used again next year. After witnessing her simple and efficient methods for years, I was amazed to learn how much effort some people put into wrapping Christmas presents. I don't fault people who go to the time and trouble to wrap a gift nicely, but we do need to keep things in perspective. I think we all agree that when it comes to gifts, it is the thought that counts. And a gift wrap, being once removed from the gift and twice removed from the thought, should actually matter hardly at all. So that's why I'm out there getting rid of the wrapping paper as soon as it comes off the gift. I figure the fewer distractions there are, the more likely we are to get down to the important things, the good feelings between the person receiving the gift and the person giving it. If I could, I'd even get rid of the gifts, but I've been told I will be banned from all future family functions if I start hauling away presents as soon as they're opened. One of my friends is always telling me, I'll hold a strong thought for you. And that's what I want under the tree. In a perfect world, we'd remove the wrapping paper and find strong thoughts from all our friends and relatives. And when I stop and think about it, that's exactly what I get. But still, every once in a while, the thought gets lost in the shuffle. That's why I think it would be nice if we could do away with the gift wrap and the presents. Then we could all sit around the tree on Christmas morning and share our thoughts with each other. But most of us can't quite bring ourselves to do that. The kids probably wouldn't understand that kind of Christmas. And there's something to be said for the joy of giving. It's the pros and cons of issues like this that make me think life is not so much wonderful as it is ambiguous. Fortunately, wonder and ambiguity are not mutually exclusive. I myself would probably not be very good at sitting around a tree telling people how I feel about them. I suspect many people are the same way. That's why we enjoy giving presents. If we can't tell them how we feel, we can at least try to show them with a little gift at Christmas. And if you've really neglected someone throughout the year, you can get them a big gift at Christmas. Retailers love guilt. We are funny creatures. We usually know what's important. But those things seem so weighty and imposing that we are easily distracted. We go bowling when we know in our hearts and souls that we should be spending time with our children. Or we don't go bowling when we know in our hearts and souls that we need time to relax and be with friends. I think it was Aristophanes who first said that many of life's mysteries would be solved if there were only some magic formula to accurately determine whether it is the right time or the wrong time in one's life to go bowling. And of course, we spend lots of money on Christmas presents when all most people want to know is that they are loved. Anyway, I said it was no accident that I ended up being the one in my family to gather up the wrapping paper at Christmas. I've spent a lot of time in my life trying to find the right balance between the package and the contents, between the things we regard as distractions and the things we consider to hold meaning. Along the way, I've known a number of people who have spent the better part of their lives focusing on their own personal gift wrap. Appearance is everything. They wrap themselves up without realizing that many people would be more interested in what's inside. And I've known yet another group of people who have spent their lives stripping away the distractions. These people are best described as focused. They figure out what they want to do with their lives and they focus on that, refusing to be sidetracked. They have found their gifts, but they sometimes forget to share them. As with most things, the answer probably lies in moderation. It's true that too many distractions can prevent us from realizing who we are, who and what we are, and from being aware. But in keeping with life's ambiguity, it's those same distractions that give life its rich texture. We don't need to become hermits, but in everything we do, we need to try to find what's important. I have an inkling of what's important at Christmas, and since I can't strip away the gifts, the least I can do is get rid of the wrapping paper. Here's wishing you an uncluttered Christmas and a very ambiguous New Year.